class of 64, and Kenneth Phillips, class of 75. So we look forward to hearing more about them later and seeing and hearing from them as well. Right now, though, I'd like to introduce somebody who is the class of 00. And that's quite kind of apocalyptic, I think. You know, it's very James Bond. I think this entire class is licensed to kill. 00. Right now, with our invocation is Amanda Holtschlag. Amanda?
Let us spend time in contemplation and give to others the fruits of your contemplation. Those were some of the words St. Dominic passed on to the members of his Dominican family. Take into your ministry the wisdom you have gained. Siena Heights College continues the Dominican tradition and affirms the belief that this institution is a place where we share faith in life, create justice and peace, and influence society positively and actively. Today, on this nice spring day, we have the privilege to acknowledge and honor members of our society who have received their start here at Siena Heights College, but by no means allowed it to end at graduation. Today, we honor 3 individuals who have continuously given to others the fruits of their contemplation. 3 individuals who have willingly given of their time and talents to make a difference in our society. Let us begin today's ceremony in prayer. For the most important things in life, we thank you, God. We thank you for health, for life, for food, for shelter, for vigor, for work, for opportunities to love, for people who care, for forgiveness when we fail, for opportunities to begin each day with a new start. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Amanda. At this time, we'd like to invite you to enjoy your lunch. We'll start the main section of our awards presentation a few minutes down the road, so please enjoy.
Sorry. Thank you, Mark. You'll all be happy to learn. I had some remarks prepared, and I'm going to just skip them because of the time. I think you would rather hear more from our honored guests than you would from me. But let me just say to our honored guests, you honor us by being with us, by your presence, by your witness to what a quality education at Siena Heights College contributed to your life and what you now contribute to the life of others. Ken, through your music and your liturgy. Deb, through your leadership and your work for children. Barbara, through your art and your teaching. You are magnificent examples of what our mission is all about and how it is embodied. So we congratulate you and we thank you for being with us today, to spending some time with our students and our faculty so that they too can celebrate your accomplishments. Congratulations.
Okay, I'd like to trim things too, but I just want to let everybody know that we are pleased to have with us today several members of the Siena Heights College Board of Trustees. And if you would stand right now, as Rick just said, we are grateful for your presence today as well. If you could stand, board members. Thank you very much. Also, you have hopefully talked to many other members of the faculty, staff, some students today, alumni, and of course the many friends that are here. The Alumni Award program is sponsored by the Alumni Association Board of Directors, so I'd like to recognize the alumni board members who are in the audience. Mary Hellner Lash, president of the board, is right here. Amanda Adams. Donna Baker, who I saw earlier, is on the end. Donna. Diane DeVoe. Sister Betty Dolan. Kathy J. Larry Richardson. And honorary board member, Sister Marie Irene Miller. I also would like to recognize past Alumni Award recipients who are with us today. Let's see. Outstanding Alumni Award winners from the past. We have Evelyn Capone, class of 48. Sister Marie Irene Miller, class of 36. If I had carefully planned that better, I could have done those back to back. I'm sorry. Up and down. And Sister Helen Duggan, class of 1941. Sister Ann Joachim Award winners, and that's an award that has a special place in my heart. I was privileged enough when my time here at Siena Heights as an undergrad to know Sister Ann Joachim and to visit with her, and what a marvelous, marvelous person she was. Jane Court Waldo, class of 53. Seal Schwartz, class of 73. Is it in bad form to tell everybody's class? I don't know. They're here, so I'm going to do it anyways. Mary Poor, class of 76. Margaret Schultz Noe, class of 75. David Ballenberger, class of 72. St. Dominic Award winners from the past, Marjorie Thompson Hyatt, class of 49. Jean Oliver Reisterer, class of 47. And Sister Therese Craig, class of 48. In our presence, we have two winners of the recent Alumni Award, Larry Richardson Jr., class of 76, and Ann Hughes, class of 82. All three of last year's Alumni Award winners, Pat Irwin, Sister Pat Walter, and Ann Tompert, sent special notes of regret that they could not be here today, and so we'll certainly remember them, but they did send notice ahead of time that they wished for us to have a wonderful day today. And a special note, Pat Irwin, who was last year's recipient of the recent Alumni Award, is a finalist this year in the Governor's Service Award competition, which covers the state of Michigan. So that's quite an honor to have one of our alums in that category. So congratulations to them. For the past few years, we followed this format where we invite the alumni winners, award recipients, to campus and actually spend the day with us, speaking in classes, mingling with the students, meeting different people, and it's been wonderful. And there are many activities planned for today yet, and I just want to bring your attention to a couple of them. You notice that you have a yellow sheet, you should have a yellow sheet of activities that are going on throughout the day. At 3 p.m. in Studio Angelico, room 11, Barb Cervenka will present the Peruvian slide lecture, The Cuadros of Pamplona Alta, Popular Art and Daily Life in Peru. And also at 4 p.m. in Lumen Chapel, Ken Phillips will deliver the homily at the Festival Mass and the Feast of the Annunciation. 5 to 6 p.m. there's a closing reception in Clem Gallery, and I'm told that there will be wonderful things to snack at that time. I'm Italian. I don't know why that came to mind of all things I have to say about that. Also going on all day, right here in the atrium area of our Dominican Hall, or our Dominican Hall building right here, is Mythanthropus, fabric hangings by Ken. All day passages, Barb Cervenka's watercolor exhibit is in Clem Gallery, and there are the other things that we mentioned as well. So please take advantage of as many things as possible, make it a full day event with a great celebration and celebrating all of our alumni here. We all have this one common bond, Siena Heights College, soon to be university. To begin the awards section of the program right now, I'd like to introduce Trudy McSorley, class of 1970, who will present the Sister Ann Joachim Award to Deborah Carrington Keller. I'd like to invite them both to come forward at this time.
I wanted to say, since you said that Ken's work is out here in the Hallmark and Barb's work is over in the gallery, that Deb's work is over at the Academy. So let's see what she's designed. Among the many wonderful opportunities that I have had over the last 25 years of serving at Siena Heights College, this occasion stands out to honor a fellow alum, a teacher of paramount proportions, an administrator whose faithful devotion to children has brought new visions to the children and families of St. Joseph Academy, as well as a spirited and devoted friend. When Deborah Carrington came to Siena, or as she would say, was dropped off by her mom, from her home in New Jersey in 1970, she came here as a student on probation. 3.5 years later, Deb completed her BA degree with a teacher education certification with a 3.2 GPA. A year and a half later, she completed her MA in guidance and counseling at Siena with a GPA of 3.95. Now, this is all quite impressive, but for those of us in this room who remember some of those undergrad days, we remember Deb as one who was a very active and visible presence on our campus. She was active in student government, student activities, campus ministry, and found ways to be mentored by cherished sisters and colleagues, Sister Carmelia O'Connor and Sister Pat Hogan. She even was in our first production to be performed, the first production to be performed on Francoeur stage, My Fair Lady. I remember Deb as a young teacher on this campus. Wherever she was, there was always activity and spirit. Stories, fortunately for Deb, we don't have time right here.
Or my friends.
Though many of those friends are here in this room, and they could tell them later. As a young teacher, Deb went to St. Joseph Academy, where she had done her student teaching. Here she continued her mentorship by the Adrian Dominicans with Sister Loretta May and Sister Phyllis Kreider and Sister Kathleen Shans, all of whom are here today. She grew as a teacher and was known as one who was strict, exacting, but above all, fair. Deb developed a phys ed program for the children, addressing the Presidential Fitness Program, which developed state recognition for 2 years in a row, and has consistently been a part of the program at St. Joseph Academy, as well as other organized sports, basketball and soccer being the outstanding. When Sister Mary Margaret Petruski left the Academy in 1991, Deb became the first lay principal. I say this with great warmth because Deb's love and connection with the Adrian Dominicans is strong, deep, and very cherished. They are often part of her conversation. In fact, Deb has often said, "I feel very Dominican." Since that time, her dauntless vision and inspired leadership has taken the Academy to new heights. From gathering her boys in late August to trim the bushes, wash down the front porch, and give the doors a fresh pet coat of paint so the children will be proud as they walk up to the Academy those first days of school each year, to heading the celebration of 100 years of excellence in education at St. Joseph Academy in 1996, to empowering the planning of individualized curriculum for students at the Academy, and most recently, providing the leadership and direction for a new middle school at St. Joe's. All this and so much more is a part of what makes Deb Keller the wonderful presence she is at St. Joseph Academy. If any one of us asks her any aspect about St. Joseph Academy, her first response always is it good for the children? Yes, Deb, you have been and are good for the children. For the last 23 years, Deb's support and best friend through all of this has been her husband, David, who often gets the title of one of Deb's boys. He, along with Matthew and Adam, their sons, have been integral to Deb's life at the Academy. Their presence cannot be missed at many occasions as they lend helping hands, coach, direct, or are directed in many activities at the Academy. David, Matt, and Adam, I know you celebrate the #1 woman in your life. I cannot tell you how many times she has proudly proclaimed your achievements or simply been grateful for the wonderful men you are. As one who is gifted among the many who call Deb friend, I stand for them. Deb, we salute you for your leadership, your presence, your vision, your integrity, and are so very proud that you are an alum of Siena Heights College. Congratulations, friend. And so, the Siena Heights College Alumni Association proudly presents the Sister Ann Joachim Award to Deborah Carrington Keller, the classes of 74 and 75, in recognition of the Christian values and Siena spirit that have led you to dedicate your career to the leadership and continued success of St. Joseph Academy Montessori Children's House. You are deeply committed to the well-being of your students, not only academically, but also physically and spiritually. In all your work, you proudly maintain the image and spirit of your alma mater, of Siena Heights College. Congratulations.
I am honored to be accepting this prestigious Sister Ann Joachim Award, an award given in recognition of community involvement and leadership. I really share this award with many special people who have been a part of my life. My parents, who now reside in sunny Florida and couldn't be here today, they helped make it possible for me to attend Siena Heights College some 28 years ago. My husband David and 2 sons, Matthew and Ed. They have always been there for me. They have shared me with early morning meetings and late nights, and sometimes weekends in my office. They have shared me with many other families and a variety of commitments over the years. Guys, I do appreciate each one of you. I couldn't do what I do today without all of your support. A very special group of women who have been a profound influence in my life are the Adrian Dominicans. What a strong, committed group of women to be associated with. So many of them have been wonderful mentors and friends to me. This influence began back in my Siena days, where I literally grew up. I came here from New Jersey because I was looking for an affordable, smaller, private Catholic institution. I had grandparents in Michigan, and I thought it would be a good experience to live away from home for college. I found so much more. I had wonderful instructors like Sister Carmelia O'Connor, Sister John Mary Hogan, Sister Josephine Sullivan, Sister Elizabeth Dolan, and Sister Mary Burns, to name a few. Women who time after time were there for the students. Women who cared, nurtured, and led by example. Women who were indeed good teachers. Women who either in the classrooms or in the residence hall helped me to get to know myself and helped me become a better person. Other special Dominican women who have meant so much to me and truly helped me become the educator I am today are Sister Loretta May and Sister Phyllis Creener. After my student teaching experience with them, they gave me my first job as a teacher. They led by example and have been a tremendous influence in my life. Working at St. Joseph Academy Montessori Children's House has also gave me the privilege of working and knowing many other Dominicans. I am lucky to call many of them friends, friendships that I still cherish today. Siena Heights College has been a very important part of my life. Siena's mission of educating individuals for competent, purposeful, and ethical lives has truly been indeed who I am. I feel very purposeful in my life today, and I believe Siena Heights College is the institution that grounded me in these values. Today, I also share part of this award with my many friends and co-workers who are here to celebrate with me. Several of our friendships go back to our Siena days. I won't take time to share all the stories, but I would like to say, because of your friendships with me, I am a better person. I really value friendships, and I am blessed with many great ones. Thank you to my friends. To my professional associates, I also say thank you for your constant encouragement and belief in the various projects that we've shared. I hope to continue good working relationships with you. In closing, I share a part of this award with so many of you sitting here today because you have been there for me as my family, my friend, or associate. I thank Trudy for her kind words and her friendships over the years, Barb Lawrence for nominating me for this award, and the Siena Heights College community for recognizing and honoring me today. I promise to live up to this award in the years to come, and I am truly honored. Thank you.
Deb had mentioned today that her parents weren't here. Unfortunately, they live down in Florida year-round, lucky them. And all these years, you guys thought that she was going down to get the suntan. But they're very special to Deb, and so they called and they wanted to do something special, and they know that Deb loves roses. They wanted to make sure that you got these, and they told me to tell you that they love you very much, and they're very proud of you, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much. I want to know how Matt got out of school. Mr. Matson, you know you're here? I know Marshall Matson. He's getting a phone call. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the Academic Dean of Siena Heights College, Sharon Weber, OP, class of '69, who will present the St. Dominic Award to Barbara Cervenka, OP.
It is a privilege and a genuine delight to present the St. Dominic Award for 1997-98 to Sister Barbara Cervenka. The St. Dominic Award recognizes commitment to Christian education and the embodiment of Dominican philosophy and the spirit of Siena. A quick reading of her biography in your program will indicate that Barbara has dedicated most of her ministerial years to formal education. I would like to focus on just a couple of facets of that dedication and try to tie them into some aspects of Dominic's life and commitment, to make some connections beyond the obvious one that might be picked up by reading in Sister Cecilia's description of St. Dominic that his hair was reddish. The Dominican commitment to education is based, at least in part, on Dominic's belief that good preaching required that the preacher had studied in the pursuit of truth and had a solid foundation from which to speak. Young Dominicans from the earliest days were sent to universities all over Europe in order to fulfill this conviction. Yes, there was a time when Barbara and I were young Dominicans. And we were sent to the University of Michigan with 3 other Adrian Dominican sisters. It was in that situation that I first met Barbara. If the first preaching of a Dominican is that of the example of her life, and there is reason to believe that Dominic thought that, then Barbara quickly began teaching me. But let me tie that back to Dominic. Dominic spent many years in the south of France among the Albigensians before he founded the Order of Preachers. He spent those years coming to know the people, their deep desires and needs. He studied the church and its shortcomings in that situation. He reflected on his experiences of preaching and of the painfully slow progress he was making. He prayed and he responded to the action of God in his life. In that sense, his challenge to his followers to contemplate and give to others the fruits of contemplation was based on his own life and experience. The establishment of the Order of Preachers was the fruit of Dominic's contemplation. And one of the things that Barbara taught me those many years ago when we lived together was that art is also the fruit of contemplation. Her prayerful attitude toward life and her reflection on such things as nature, life, death, relationships, situations in our society, beauty, and art itself led to the works of art that she created. And what wonderful works they are. How full of wonder they make us. How compellingly they draw us into the act of reflection. If you have not yet been over to see Barbara's show in the Clem Gallery, I really encourage you to do that before you leave campus. Barbara's art recalls for us Dominic's challenge to act from a contemplative stance. Dominic's life and actions honored the good in the other. He listened so that he could speak to others of God in ways that made sense to the other. One of Barbara's major educational efforts reflects both this and the contemplative aspect of Dominic. Knowing that good art comes from reflection of the artist on his or her own reality, Barbara's collected folk art of cultures other than our own and has used that to help us come to know something of those other cultures. She's collected artwork from Peru and Brazil and curated displays of that work in a wide variety of settings in this country. I had the privilege of attending one of her lectures at a University of Michigan workshop some years ago. She was presenting the work of Peruvian artists and invited us to reflect on their experience of the normal life of their city, as well as of the times of violence that was also a part of their experience. It struck me that that audience may never have chosen to attend a lecture on the life of the peasants of Peru, or on the effects of the presence of the Sendero Luminosa in their lives, though they learned a lot about that when they attended a presentation on that artwork. So in respecting the reflective life of these third world artists, Barbara has been able to help those of us in the first world hear about and understand the experience of another culture, was able to help each of us honor the good in another. Barbara, for all of your contributions to education, but most especially for these, I am proud to present you with the St. Dominic Award, which reads, the Siena Heights College Alumni Association proudly presents the St. Dominic Award to Sister Barbara Cervenka, OP, class of '64. In recognition of her accomplishments as an artist, an educator, and an explorer of others, she shares her talents generously, guided by her own gentle strength and a loving Christian spirit. In her expressive painting, her dedicated teaching, and her sensitive appreciation of the diversity of creative endeavor, She embodies the spirit of Siena Heights and the philosophies of St. Dominic.
So now what do I say? Well, Sharon was kind enough to admit the fact that those cross-cultural experiences that we shared so richly in Ann Arbor years ago never went far enough to get me to a chemistry lecture. And though she has frequently reminded me of this, she has never made our friendship contingent on it. You know, receiving an award like this is a bit of a mixed blessing. On one hand, you can no longer deny that you're old enough for people to think that you should have accomplished something. On the other hand, you are stopped from the busyness to which we are all prone to consider just what that might be. Now, it's kind of hard to think of accomplishments. I think you consider more the idea of trajectories, paths that don't stop, like one painting after the next. Nothing in our lives is really ever done, you know, and part of this, I guess, is just the process of staying with it, which occasionally amounts to an accomplishment or two. What I did think about when I thought about receiving this award, what I did think about much more than accomplishments were the lucky choices that made those paths so interesting and those trajectories so entertaining. For example, I thought of how lucky I was to have, at 17, joined a community of smart, good, dedicated women who are always thinking about new things, who are endlessly discussing, challenging, supporting, demanding participation, and enabling the very best of each of us. It was very lucky. And it was lucky to have found myself in situations where I made great friends, many of whom are sitting here today with us. Friends who share a glass of wine at the end of the day, who share the talk about the day's events, who have shared what I hoped for, and who have stayed with me when I struggled with failure, and who often have believed in me much more than I have myself. It was very, very lucky. And it was lucky to have found myself often at places like Siena in Michigan, where someone is always asking what I thought were inappropriate and difficult questions. Challenging, rethinking, raising another point of view, and occasionally, trying to kind of get me to change my point of view. Places where education was a two-way street, where the students taught the teachers and the teachers occasionally were learners, where things were always just a little bit unsettled, and there was always a need to do something more. It was very, very lucky. So on a day like this, I do feel lucky. I feel very fortunate. I feel blessed. And I'd like to thank you for this award that acknowledges all that community and friendship and education can bring. I am very, very grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. I know Pat Schnapp is very nervous about what I may say now about her. But I would simply like to introduce a marvelous person who is on sabbatical right now, but we still see on campus. Pat Schnapp, who will introduce or present the Outstanding Alumni Award to Kenneth Phillips, class of 1975.
Pat?
I think maybe Ken is the nervous one here. It is with great delight that I introduce Kenneth B. Phillips, this year's recipient of the Outstanding Alumni Award. I've known Ken over 20 years, from the days when we taught high school together. I have fond memories of his wandering into my religion class, huge mug of coffee in one hand, and without saying a word, going to the blackboard to draw an illustration of some point I was making, while the students stared in awe, then just wandering out again. I remember department parties where Ken would entertain us by improvising operatic arias from names in the telephone book. He was particularly good at long Polish names. But Ken's not only fun to be around, he's the single most talented person I have ever met. Example, several years ago he was asked to compose a short reflection for All Souls Day for the liturgy. He didn't have anything ready, but he said, "I think I can get something by communion time." Less than half an hour later, he snuck into the chapel and sat down, paper clutched to his chest. He got up after communion and read his poem Reflection, which continues to so move me that I meditate on it and have sent it to many people at difficult times. I had originally thought that I would read it to you, but I'm not going to for a couple of reasons. First, it's a little long. Secondly, it's in an elegiac tone rather than a celebratory tone. And thirdly, I burst into tears every time I start it. But it is on the table outside, and I invite you to pick up a copy of it for your own reflection and prayer when you leave.
Just get copyright permission on that.
Whoops! As is appropriate for an outsized man known to his intimates as Bigfoot, Ken has outsized talents, excelling in the realms of visual art and music, as well as poetry. These dance together in his work as liturgist and celebrational artist when he prepares sacred spaces for sacred events. And I've learned that this work is not adequately captured in the unfortunate phrase, decorating the church. Ken's work is a ministry, and he brings to it a spirituality profoundly influenced by his experiences at Siena Heights. When Ken and I taught together at Central Catholic and again converged at Bowling Green State University as campus ministers, he was the Pied Piper, our Leonardo DiCaprio, attracting students and colleagues with a charisma compounded of warmth, humor, wisdom, zest, playfulness, empathy, and wit. His magnetism was so great, and his enthusiasm for projects so infectious, that it happened more than once that I'd find myself with Ken and a band of merry students at 3 a.m. gluing tiny tiles of felt or glass onto huge, interminable, but gorgeous banners needed for the next day's liturgy. Kenneth has been much honored in his life. He was recognized by both the Toledo Diocese and Bowling Green as outstanding educator. He received, while working on his master's in art, numerous gallery awards for works in clay and for collagraphs. At Regis, he has received both the John Patrick Reardon Peace Award and the President's Service Award, and he was voted Man of the Year by the student body. Ken has served as Director of Liturgy, Music, and Environment for several diocesan and national conferences, and for Denver's World Youth Day, to which the Pope came. He has, was there cause and effect there? He has produced a body of liturgical music, scripts for dramatic liturgical events, a score of poems, both published and ignored, he says, stained glass designs for local churches, and an ongoing body of robes and banners for ritual events. He has been an ongoing contributor to Modern Liturgy magazine and given numerous liturgical workshops in the areas of ministry, liturgical art, and music. So, has this man no flaws? In rummaging through my Phillips files, I did come upon a card he'd sent me once suggesting perhaps a touch of hubris. On it is an image of Ken himself wearing pontifical garb. Does he perhaps harbor illusions of perhaps becoming Pope Kenneth I? And in all honesty, I must confess that Ken is a bit coercive. A few years ago, when he had spent months preparing an elaborate special liturgy, he called and insisted that I fly out to Denver for it. When I hesitated, reminding him of plane costs, he countered with, "Let me put it this way, Pat. You come out to Denver, or I don't play for your funeral." I hung up and called the travel agency. Both on the personal and the institutional level, Ken has shared his Dominican Catholic vision with the free-handed generosity which characterizes all he does. He is Siena Heights' gift to Regis University, to the Diocese of Denver, and to the Church. His commitment to using his superlative talents for the glory of God and for the spiritual nourishing of others makes him a graduate of whom Siena Heights can take enormous pride. Kenneth, stand up. The Siena Heights College Alumni Association proudly presents the Outstanding Alumni Award to Kenneth B. Phillips, class of 1975. In recognition of his significant achievements as a creative artist who has dedicated his talents to the glory of God and the spiritual enrichment of others. An accomplished poet, musician, printmaker, potter, and fabric worker, Ken nonetheless has chosen ministry as his career, counseling young people as a teacher, a liturgist, and a college ministry leader. A man of robust faith and energy, he exemplifies the value and spirit of Siena Heights College and is a worthy role model for today's Siena students. I am delighted to present my buddy, friend, and the outstanding alum, Kenneth Phillips.
You know, Pat is a tremendously gifted woman, and I'm first perhaps in line to praise her. But she has a gift for, let's say there's a picnic and you brought weenies and beans. She would come back reporting that you had pheasant under glass and, you know, pâté de foie gras. She has a real transformative gift to take humble things and perhaps to amplify them. I'm deeply honored by this award. I want to thank you, Mr. President, and all the folks in the Alumni Association. Very special thanks to Jennifer Hamlin Church for all the work that she has done for this event and her office in assisting things into coming to being. I also want to thank my parents, one of whom is here, my mom, and my family who have come, and all the people who said such kind things. my first response when I got this notification of this award was a little bit of disbelief, because you know, it's sort of like, what am I doing in the ranks of the other two women who have gotten this award? Barb, for one thing, was my life drawing instructor, and as she remembered today, I was always late with turning things in, and it's a damnable thing what people remember about you, and what never changes. But I'm thinking that there's something incongruous about the matching up of these things, and I thought, oh, they need an animal act. And I thought about the various institutions that I've gone to since high school, Siena Heights, Bowling Green State University, and a degree at Regis University. And I was thinking about the business of belonging, that I didn't really much feel as if I belonged to those other institutions. I didn't even go to the graduating ceremonies of my master's institutions, partially because I have an aversion to alumni talking at events. But suddenly I sensed that no longer was it a matter of whether or not I felt that I belonged to a place, because Siena had decided over the miles and time that indeed I belonged, and I wasn't about to judge their vision as wrong, maybe curious but not wrong. And so it's today, especially walking through the fine tour that I had, going into the classroom, the events later on today, it's a real privilege to belong to this. And I feel that it was long fated that I would belong in this network. My mother went to St. Joseph's Academy and graduated in the 30s. I grew up in a parish where the Dominicans were the teachers at the parish school. I went to a high school where extraordinary teachers were present there from a number of religious orders, including the Oblates of St. Francis de Sales. I'm delighted that Roland is here. He and his confreres have had a strong influence in my life as well. I met Sister Rose Gilbert Labonte, who a number of you may know, and she had been a mentor and a significant force in my life. And then I went on to other institutions and kept bumping into Dominicans. And the irony this year especially is that that network, the women of Tocolan back in California, who were very formative in my future creative development, the continuous connecting with Barb and Rita from the NI Center in the world of liturgy and art. Last 2 years, there was a Dominican on our staff. And the profound irony from being hooked up in the same day with Barb Cervenka, to this day, 4 blocks away from my house is Father John Kiefer, who, for those of you who don't know, was the campus minister when I was here, and a very significant force in my development as a liturgist and a believer that the arts and faith have a lot to say to each other in different worlds. When I was doing graduate work at Bowling Green, I got a lot of flack for that from folks, most of them fallen away Catholics, who believed that the two worlds couldn't intersect, that you couldn't do credible work in art if you were a believer, that somehow it would repress your expressiveness. I understand what they're saying. In an age when the church is getting increasingly conservative, I can understand how it may be increasingly like that. But the example of Dominican women, particularly in my life, all along, was an example of great integrity, great love, great creativity, and real devotion and love for the created world. And that's sort of trickled down into my life these days. And you need to go through Pat's hyperbole and maybe delete a good 50% of it, or at least check it out. And the Pope aspirations are not true. But one thing is true is that with the changing church and the shift in religious vocations, I don't mind the changing church so much, but I am sorry that there are fewer Dominicans. And we have the same problem at Regis, which is a Jesuit school. Fewer numbers of Jesuits. And the question is, how do you continue the spirit when the personnel is dwindling? And I think today is a good example that there is plenty of spirit, Dominican, to sift out into the world. My hope is that what goes on in this institution is that same spirit that I was blessed with from early ages will continue and flourish. And so, with all that said, I feel like the Academy Awards the other night. I do kind of feel like king of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. And in the spirit of the Academy Awards, we're going to continue. I would right now like to introduce you to Melissa Burns, who is the president of Student Senate and a 1998 soon-to-be graduate of Siena Heights College. Melissa?
Way too tall. Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to thank you for being asked to speak tonight to these wonderful alums. It's a great pleasure to see all of you, and hopefully I get to speak to you a little bit afterwards. Each of the Alumni Award recipients here today exemplify the model of professionalism, leadership, community involvement, and dedication that Siena Heights students hope to achieve after graduation. It's a blessing to have such wonderful and accomplished alumni to look up to as a student for a future model of what you'd want to be when you grow up. Should that happen in the near future.
Don't bet.
Well, you know, they say eventually you get there. I'm hoping someday. On behalf of the students, I'd like to congratulate each and every one of you, those past and especially present today, on receiving the Alumni Awards. Congratulations. May your future be just as bright and wonderful as it has been up to this point. Again, congratulations.
Thank you, Melissa. I would just like to let everybody know that a great event like today is made possible for a couple of reasons. One, because people took the time to nominate persons they felt were deserving of an alumni recognition. And I think on everybody's table there should be a form to do just that. Thank you, Mary. Just the yellow sheet will allow you the opportunity to nominate somebody yourself. And who knows, next year you may be sitting in the exact same seat congratulating somebody that you think is deserving of one of these great awards. I'd also like just to take a moment to thank Jennifer Hamlin Church and her staff as well, who put today together, and they just did a marvelous job and made everything run very, very smoothly for all of us. So I appreciate that as well. In closing, I'd like to invite Todd Butler to come up and give the benediction. Todd?
We've had a wonderful event here, but the benediction is not so much offered for us. It's offered for the students who are above us in the classrooms and on this campus and all the other campuses of Siena. And in that frame, may we ask for God's blessing. God, we have gathered to celebrate the gifts and achievements of Deborah, Barbara, and Kenneth. But we have also come to celebrate the seed of promise that you have planted in each one of us. May you bless us by sending us mentors who will recognize and call forth our giftedness. And may you send us challenges, in the accepting of which we will surely grow. Most of all, may you teach us to listen for the subtle but insistent voice of the Holy Spirit, who was present when you planted this seed of promise, and his pledges to remain with us as we cultivate that promise to 100-fold. All of these things We pray in Jesus' name.
And we hope you enjoy the rest of the day. We have a great slate of activities for you. Please check out the schedules and just have a marvelous, marvelous day and enjoy the unseasonably nice weather today and tomorrow.